What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Many Mistakes Ago. So, this is going to be an interesting episode because I'm putting two topics together that do not go together at all. And the reason is because today's episode was originally supposed to be about 101 essays that change the way you think. It's one of those episodes where I kind of like review a book and give you like my juicy intake on it. Um However, this book is like comprised of so many, like literally 101 essays. There's just so much content that I felt like I didn't really know where to begin, and I wanted to keep it short, so I kind of am keeping it short. But I also wanted to talk about jury duty because I'll get into it. Basically, I was summoned and I was Googling, like, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to bring? Like, all these kind of questions that I had, right? And I'm like, I have no idea where to even begin. Um, and I was like, what better way than to like talk about it on a podcast? Because maybe some people don't know. I don't. It was my first time. I'm literally 27 years old and I'm being summoned for jury duty. Like, what do you want me to do? I've never done this before. So, bottom line is these were the perfect two episodes to combine because they're shorter, but they have nothing to do with one another. So I'm going to start with the jury duty experience, and then I'll get into the 101 essays. So on my birthday, nonetheless, y'all, I got a nice little birthday present from my local county. Let's just go with that because I really don't know who exactly sent it. But yeah, I got a jury summons in my mail as a birthday present. So thank you, San Antonio. Um, so I had to appear for court. Mind you, I'm like, I have no idea what to wear, what to bring, what I can't bring. Like, I have no idea what's going on. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess we're gonna like Google because Google is my best friend. If I don't know what I'm doing, if I don't know what I'm supposed to do, I'm gonna Google. So the most important thing, I think, is how you dress. So keep in mind that, like, I was selected for jury duty. I've never gone, and I can only tell you my experience, but um, they may or may not allow jeans. You need to, like, check with your local district court if that's where you're going. See what the dress code is. I dressed like an old woman. Okay, I had black work pants, dress pants that my mom gave me that I literally asked her if I could take them from her like 4 or 5 months ago in December when I went to visit her. And I was like, I need work pants because I have an interview coming up and I have no work pants that fit me because I gained weight. And she was like, okay, well, try these on. So I wore those, and then I wore an old woman's basically cardigan. Now that cardigan is long gone now because of me being stupid, but let's just call it that. Um but basically it was like a junior's cardigan, but like it was like this tan color, didn't really go with my skin, was big on me. But I wanted to be comfy and I wanted to not show off all my tattoos because like I'm literally going to court. Like I just want to be respectful. Not I mean, mind you, I already have piercings in my face. Not that I'm going to be judged on that, but like, you never know how you're going to get picked as like a jury member, and you don't want to show any sort of like one way or the other. Like you don't, if you get to the point in where like the attorneys are like picking who to keep on the jury or who to dismiss on the jury, like I didn't want that to be an issue. I didn't want, like, I have literally, it's a dagger, right, and a snake. I mean, the snake's not a big deal, but the dagger, like, I just wanted to be respectful of the space that I was in. Let's go with that. So I made sure that all my tattoos were covered. I wore flats. So just keep in mind what your dress code is. It's basically business casual, if you will. You can dress up, but the most important thing is to be comfortable. And I suggest dressing in layers because you honestly never know what kind of climate you're going to run into. You're going to be surrounded by people. So if you're able to kind of dress in layers, that's what I did. I had a t-shirt and then I had the cardigan. But of course the t-shirt's not very dressy. It was just like my undershirt, and I knew I would be fine because it wasn't like a thick hot layer, but it is what it is. So I had no idea what to bring. I was like, can I bring this? Can I bring that? Like, my mind is like, what do I bring? What do I eat? Like, where do I even start? Because I don't know if I'm going to be there for 2 hours or 8. Like, I don't know what the process is like. So I was Googling it, and someone said something that I think is the closest to accurate, but not completely accurate. And he said, think of it as you're packing for an airport. Whatever you can bring on an airplane is what you can bring to the court. And why I say it's not completely accurate is because of the liquids rule. Mind you, I'm a diabetic, so I already knew that if they were going to come at me for bringing water bottles or apple juice, that I was going to say that they were sealed and I was a type 1 diabetic, and like, I need to make sure I have access to that. But I kid you not, I had 2 bags. I had my purse, which was kind of, I don't want to say oversized, but like a good size, like you can carry some stuff. So I brought a book, I brought my tablet, I brought my phone. Mind you, you have to have all of it silenced or off. Um, as long as it's silenced, it's not a big deal. There were actually people there that didn't even silence their phones, which I'm sure that like if they got picked, then they probably had to. But that's besides the point. The specific place where I went for jury duty, they had like a scanner, like you would for an airport, right? They check your bags, they kind of wand you, you go through a little security thing. Now, mine went off because I'm a diabetic. They had no issues with that. So if you are a diabetic, you have your pump, you have pump supplies, I encourage you to bring whatever you need. If you need extra needles, you need pump supplies, bring it because you don't know what's going to happen. Take all of your chances, right? It's better to be safe than sorry. So for me, I brought 2 extra sites. I brought insulin. I brought needles for like in case like my pump failed. I had like syringes that I could like draw up the insulin. Brought everything. They had no issue with it. Um, I brought 2 sealed water bottles and a sealed apple juice. No issues. So the best advice I can give y'all that actually somebody said this. So he was 1 row behind me and he was working. Like he literally brought his laptop and everything. And he had said, God, what did he say? He said he felt like a kid packing for a school field trip. And I think that's like the best way that you could put it is like an adult field trip. Whatever you would bring to work um is like basically what you're gonna bring. Like you don't want to bring weapons or anything like that, of course. Again, I said needles are fine as long as you're a diabetic or you have the use for them. Like they're not gonna be like, what the hell is this? Like I literally the lady went to wand me and I was like, I'm a diabetic, and she's like, no worries. Like she did not bat an eye to me or my supplies. So that was the nicest thing because at an airport, I'm always worried about if they're going to understand what I'm talking about. Like, you never know who you're going to encounter. So that was great. So bring food, bring drinks, bring caffeine, whatever, because you don't know what kind of cafeteria setup they're going to have. So I brought this purse and a lunch bag. So for my purse, let's start with that. Make it simple. I brought my tablet, I brought a book, I brought a charger, like for my tablet, and I brought a battery pack. Because I didn't know, like, plugs are usually first come, first serve. So I brought all of that, and then I had my phone, of course. Now, one thing I would do differently is I would probably bring a phone charger. I unfortunately forgot to pack that and figured, well, I have my tablet, so like if I need to reach somebody, Facebook Messenger is a thing. Um, but other than that, I brought everything I needed. I brought a lunch bag. I brought a bunch of snacks, and I brought the 2 water bottles and um, apple juice, and I also brought like Pop Tarts. But if it were me, I probably would have packed like a peanut butter jelly sandwich or something. They did have a cafeteria, but A, you're going to be spending money. Of course, you don't want to. And B, um, you don't know what kind of food they're going to have. I mean, I personally, like, I went into the cafeteria to go get caffeine because I was dying. I ended up buying one of those like Starbucks drinks instead of getting the other coffee because I don't like hot coffee. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm SOL. Like, I need something. So I bought the double shot espresso drink, which, if anyone knows that, there's a ton of carbs and sugar and caffeine in them. So not exactly ideal, but I knew I needed caffeine in order to like wake up and get rid of my headache. Um, but honestly, you really just pack whatever the hell you want. Now, let's get into timing. So, they say to report at 8 a.m. You can report whatever time you please. Um, I know that's going to sound weird, but I walked in, I think around 7:45. That was probably the perfect time because there were already people that went in and were sitting down, but there were still so many people to show up and report. I like kind of walked in where there was like a wave of people, but I was kind of at the front of that wave. So I think I was somewhere in the middle when I went to go sit down. Um, but overall, like, you show up at 8, they're not gonna like be like, oh my god, you're not here by 8 o'clock, like you're not here in time. Like, they're not gonna chill. They're gonna check people in. You got to make sure you have your jury summons. I was told I needed my ID, but I didn't pull it out at all, so I don't know. But yeah, I brought everything I could possibly need and more. I brought my entire wallet, which I'm glad I did because, like I said, I ended up going to the cafeteria and bought something. They had restrooms really close to the central jury room, and that wasn't a big deal at all. Like, at all, at all. Like, I was able to go to the bathroom um, when I needed to. But essentially, I was waiting, I want to say, for like 30-40 minutes or so. I can't give you an exact timeline because, again, I got there early. So I want to say maybe around 8:20, 8:30, they started to have the judge and the bailiff, you know, do their speeches and whatever. So it was really nice because we did have that time to get there. It wasn't like 8 a.m. you have to be there. You know, you don't have to stress and freak out. My recommendation is parking. For me personally, I had my girlfriend drop me off because it was like a 7 minute walk. I feel like it was longer than a 7-minute walk. I feel like it was just like a 6-minute drive, maybe like a 10 to 14-minute walk. Now I'm that, let me not get too specific, but I was in a place in which I didn't feel comfortable walking, and parking is ridiculous. So, parking, I didn't want to deal with it, so I just had my girlfriend drop me off, which you just saw her walk by. Um, my thing is that it was a lot better because parking was like $10, but like if you had your jury summons, it was 3. And I was like, why am I paying for parking when, like, why am I paying for parking? It just made no sense to me. Like, I'm being summoned here and now I have to pay for parking. I didn't like that, but like I kind of have to understand like the way that they come up with this. um However, I must say, like, Uber probably was like more ridiculous. So, like, you have to get there somehow. But if you can have a friend drop you off or pick you up, like, I'm all for it. If not, like, parking isn't a big deal. It's $3, whatever. But, like, I was so close that it was just easier for me to have somebody, like, drop me off and pick me up. Especially because my girlfriend wasn't working that day. So, like, it was a no brainer for me. Um, so let's talk about like getting into like jury duty and the nitty gritty, if you will. So again, the judge and the bailiff spoke, and they basically were like, if you have any exemptions or whatever, like you can speak to the judge, but like you having to pick up your kids and like leaving early is not like an exception. It's just something that like we'll take into account, but like you should have, like, we gave you like 2 weeks to like figure it out, basically, is what they were trying to say. So I was like, okay, well, my only thing is diabetes, and my thought process was is that I'm not going to bring it up unless I'm picked, because if it's just a day case, like I can probably deal with it. But if it's going to be like for like over, a couple days to like weeks, depending on how long the case is, then it's going to be something I want to bring up, because I never know how my sugar is going to react to certain foods, drinks, whatever. Um, so I didn't end up bringing it up. I kept it to the side and I was like, okay, we'll just see how it goes. So after speaking all the exemptions, blah, 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 they give us like maybe a 45-minute break for us to kind of relax, get food, go to the bathroom, do whatever they needed to do whatever we needed to do while they like compiled their list of like who showed up and like randomize like the people that are getting picked. My girlfriend is trying to wave at me, and I'm trying to do this podcast. She's something else. Okay. So, I was number 8. You're telling me I had a 27% chance of getting picked, and I was the 8th person picked. What the fuck? That was fun. But it was even better because I'll get into it, but I'll backtrack after. So essentially, I was picked. They brought like 100 whatever of us out into the hallway, where we were gonna go to like the courtroom or whatever their plan was. I'm not sure, but in the time of us lining up, waiting for the head count, whatever, and for somebody to tell us what's going on, 2 um, individuals that were in DOC clothing came out and like were in like handcuffs and like, what do you call them, like ankle cuffs, I don't know. And they were being led by like staff to like go down the hallway. Like it was very surreal to be like, I'm this close to somebody after watching like all of these stupid shows, like these like correctional types of shows and like jury and like law types of shows. Like I've seen so many shows and I just finished watching Suits with my girlfriend. So I'm like sitting here like trying to think and like put my knowledge together and like rack my brain about what I'm gonna need, what I'm gonna not need, whatever. I'm like, okay, like let's do this. Is this like the people that we're gonna like I was in my mind, I was like, I hope these aren't the people that we're gonna be like judging, because I'm like, hello, like we just saw them in DOC clothing, like we're gonna be almost, what's the word, like pressured to see them as criminals instead of as human beings. So I was just like, it just gives the wrong image because we're seeing them being treated one way, and it's like we don't need a skewed perception of people. Like I think as a jury member, like I want to see them in the courtroom, but also it's like the courtroom is like a very small percentage of a person that you see. So you don't get to see like all of them or anything like that. So like my mind was just like everywhere. But ultimately, they pass through whatever. We finally get our attention called, and the court case was canceled. I was like, because I didn't want to do it. I was scared. I was like, please don't make me. And my little Suits brain, I was like, ooh, what happened? Did they make a deal? Why was it canceled? Like, I was like spewing like information and trying to think like, oh my God, what happened? Wanting the tea, but like ultimately, of course, you don't know. But I served my civic duty. So I did learn that even though you do get picked, you don't always go, because the reality is that you have a 27% chance of like getting picked for a case. I don't know about the other three. There were like a total of like 360 people in that were called for jury duty. I have no idea the other 200 whatever people that weren't picked. Like I don't know if they had a case. You know what I mean? So goodness knows what happened, but all I have to say is my flight of people, we were able to go home, and that was great. I was only there for about maybe 2.5 hours. Like I was out by like probably 10:30. So that was nice, but it doesn't always go that way. But it was nice to know that like even though you do get picked, like you never know what's gonna happen. There's reasons why things get canceled, whatever. So just keep that in mind. Prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. That's like the best way I can put it. But let's go back into the courtroom because I have a couple things that I wanted to say about my experience. So it was so funny to me because we were in the central jury room and there were paintings on the wall, and two girls were walking by said paintings, and the middle picture, I don't know what happened, but it just fell, and they tried to hang it back up and they were struggling. So like one of the guys that was in the row like close to the picture, he got up to help them, and the picture came out of the frame and literally fell onto the ground. And the girl was like, I can't take you anywhere. And honestly, it was just funny because like it was silent in this room. This was like when they like adjourned us to go to the restroom and stuff. Like we had so much time, and like people were starting to float back in because okay, like you know, they told us when to come back to the central jury room. But it was just so funny because I was like, Oh my god, like, we're in a central jury room and just like a picture falls and like we're breaking shit. And it's just like, oh my god. But it was funny because everyone laughed that saw it. Like, it was just a funny moment. And it's like one of those moments where it's like, we didn't mean to. Well, I know that they didn't mean to, I should say, because like I wasn't involved. I was sitting and watching. But it was just hilarious because she was like, I can't take you anywhere. And I was like, wait, how does she know her? I thought that was interesting. Maybe that's just me, that people like knew each other in jury duty. Because it's so randomized that it's like, what, do y'all defer yourself to like the same date? I don't know. Maybe that was just me, but I was like, how do these people know each other? But they could just know each other from something and happen to like know that by chance. But anyway, um I just thought it was nice to experience jury duty as somebody who never went. Again, my advice is pack like you're going on a field trip. Make sure you have food, water, everything you possibly need. If you need accommodations, don't feel free to speak up. Don't be afraid to speak up. For me, I didn't speak up because I didn't want to go to the judge unless I got picked. And like in my instance, it was a perfect example of why I didn't quote unquote waste my breath, because like it was canceled. I served my duty by showing up. But if I had gotten picked and it went further, I would have said something. So in that case, it just like I would rather like just leave it be. Now keep in mind, most people nowadays they have you they send you the jury summons and you do your questionnaire online. Make sure you do that because it's really really simple. It's really easy. Like just get it done. Um, Again, it kind of sucks because in certain states, my state, for example, in Texas, they don't require you to pay when you go for jury duty. Like, you're not required to get paid by your employer. So I took 8 hours off and I was not paid as far as I know. I'll check my paycheck next week to find that out, but I'm pretty sure that I don't get paid for jury duty. I just don't get like attendance knocked off because that's a law that if you serve for jury duty, that if attendance is a thing, like you have attendance points, you're not allowed to get like knocked for it because you're serving your duty. So just check with your employer also if you need to, the rules of jury duty, how that works. I had to personally submit my summons to HR via a confidential email showing them I had my jury summons. And then I also sent them my certificate. That's not required by all employers, so I just sent it just in case. But those are my tips and a funny little story about jury duty. So I hope y'all enjoyed that. Let's go ahead and kind of segue into 101 essays that'll change your life. So I liked this book. I find it interesting, but at the same time, maybe a little boring after a while. I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't know how I'm starting to feel about kind of those self-help books, because I feel very encouraged and inspired to do the right thing, to learn, to grow, that these books are kind of feeling repetitive. So I don't know if I'm going to continue along the self-help path, but I know for sure that because of the job that I'm in, I have a lot of kind of downtime. Not a lot, but like a good amount of downtime where I can read. So I want to get better with reading while I'm working or like on my downtime. But I also want to keep in mind that I could also do other things. And that's what I've been doing for the most part, is like when I'm not working, I'll be doing something else. But reading, like, I want to get my 12 books done, and this is book number, I think this is book number 3. So I think I'm on par with where I need to be, but I want to make sure I don't fall behind. If it's book number 2, then I'm definitely screwed. Let me double check. Do I have that written down? Okay. I am behind, actually. That was book number 2. So book number 3, I'm starting to read now, and it's April 1st. So that goes to show, like, I am a little bit behind. I need to catch up. And these self-help books, I'm telling you, they're interesting, but not completely interesting for me. Like, I feel like I'm kind of learning the same things over and over after a while, which is nice, because as long as it gets drilled into your brain after a certain point, you're like, okay, I got it. But if you keep pushing, because I have these books, I'm like, do I really want to read this now? So keep that in mind. So there's a couple of essays that I want to talk about that were in this book. I'm not going to go through all of my favorites because there's a ton, but I'm just going to go through the first few that I really, really liked. So essay number 3 was called 10 Things Emotionally Intelligent People Do Not Do. Essay number 5 is 16 Signs of a Socially Intelligent Person. Essay 7 is What the Feelings You Most Suppress Are Trying to Tell You. Essay 9 is 20 Signs You're Doing Better Than You Think You Are. Essay 14 is Expectations You Must Let Go of in Your 20s. Essay 18 is 10 Key Things We Misunderstand About Emotion. Essay 20 is Goals to Set That Are More About Enjoying What You Have Than Chasing What You Don't. And one of my favorite essays, I'm actually going to read to you guys. It's essay number 6, and that is Uncomfortable Feelings That Actually Indicate You're on the Right Path. Now, I know a while back we talked about finding the right path, signs that you're like not on the right path, or maybe that you need to kind of change your life. And I thought this kind of went with that, which is why I picked this essay to read. But there are, like, I stopped at like the 20th essay, and I was like, okay, I think like I've got enough essays to kind of like name off. But this essay just kind of hit because I knew we talked about it. And like I said, there's multiple essays in here that are really relatable, really good. I did enjoy them, but there were some essays in here where I felt it was repetitive and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Or it was just like a lot of reading that I just wasn't really interested in doing after a certain point. So just keep that in mind, that if it's not really the vibe that you're going for, if you don't really want the self-help vibe, don't pick up the book. But I personally liked it. My girlfriend has Audible, and I guess it was a free book as well. So there were a couple of them that I listened to on her Audible. I think it's one of those books that just like can give you a little bit of motivation, but also a little bit of understanding, maybe if you don't you don't really know. Like I said, this one is Uncomfortable Feelings That Actually Indicate You're on the Right Path. So like when you read it, you're like, oh yeah, like that makes sense. But when you don't read and you kind of like are trying to think of things, like you're not going to really think of uncomfortable feelings that indicate you're on the right path. You know what I mean? That's kind of why I like this one specific essay. But like, I feel like this essay book was comprised of things that you don't really think about, but some of them are repetitive. Best way I can put it. Okay, so with this essay, they have all of the points, and then they have kind of little descriptions or explanations underneath. I'm only going to read you guys the signs just to keep this short and sweet. So, number 1, feeling as though you are reliving your childhood struggles. Number 2, feeling lost or directionless. Number 3, left brain fogginess. Number 4, having random influxes of irrational anger or sadness that intensify until you can't ignore them anymore. Number 5, experiencing unpredictable and scattered sleeping patterns. Number 6, a life-changing event that is taking place or just has. Number 7, having an intense need to be alone. Number 8, intense, vivid dreaming that you almost always remember in detail. Number 9, downsizing your friend group, feeling more and more uncomfortable around negative people. Number 10, feeling like the dreams you had for your life are collapsing. Number 11, feeling as though your worst enemies are your thoughts. Number 12, feeling unsure of who you really are. Number 13, recognizing how far you still have to go. Number 14, knowing things that you don't want to know, such as what someone is really feeling, or that a relationship isn't going to last, or that you won't be at your job much longer. Number 15, having an intense desire to speak up for yourself. And number 16, realizing that you are the only person responsible for your life and your happiness. So these were uncomfortable feelings that indicate you're on the right path. And why I liked reading that essay is because I felt like I related to it a lot. And I always constantly question, like, am I where I'm supposed to be? Am I where I need to be? Am I with who I'm supposed to be with? Like, there was a bug. There's these constant questions in my life where I'm like checking in with myself and I'm like, where am I supposed to be in this world? Am I in the right job? Am I ever going to change? Am I going to find something that I love to do? Kind of like questioning my entire life and all of my choices, which I feel like most 20-something-year-olds do, but it kind of just hits you when you're 27 and you feel like you should be somewhere completely different and you feel like you should be further along, but you have no idea how you got here and you're just trying your best and you're like, WTF is going on? Like, I have tried to go to college. I never got my associate's degree or my bachelor's degree. I've switched my major. I've dropped out. I've decided, like, certain schooling wasn't for me. I tried to go to nursing school. It wasn't for me. I did a cybersecurity program, and I couldn't get through calculus. Calculus was my worst enemy. So then I was looking into other things, and I stumbled upon full stack development, which I'm working on now. And it's just like I've went through so much just in schooling. Like, that was just in schooling that I'm like, what the heck? Like, I don't even know where I'm at in life. I don't know what I'm doing. But I've come to learn, like, I'm setting all of these goals for myself. Like, I do have a job. Maybe I don't love it, but I am getting through it right now. But like podcasting, vlogging, being creative is like where it's at for me. I really, really, really do enjoy like these podcast episodes. I enjoy feeling creative. So getting to do that feels so good. Um and I know like content creation, like that's not really where the money's at unless you have a million followers and all of these brand deals, which of course I don't have, but like it still feels good to feel expressive. And I think that if I keep working at doing something I love, which is this, and keeping a consistent basis, that I can get where I need to be naturally. So I guess what I just have to say is that sorry for the abrupt ending, guys. I have no idea where I left off, but my girlfriend, you can't see it, flooded the apartment trying to draw me a bath. So we're gonna go fix that. Love you guys.